Thinking Green. I'm Ronna, and I'm here today with Diane Hansen. Diane, like me, is a member of the Riverside Park Conservancy Board, and we're going to talk about East New London, including Riverside Park and Hodges Square, and whatever else we can think of to say about the neighborhood. So welcome, Diane.
Thank you. It's a great neighborhood, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, well, and you live there.
I do.
And, I don't live there, but, I spend a lot of time there. It's kind of more interesting than my neighborhood. I like my house, though. So, I guess, it's still winter, but it's starting to feel a little bit spring-like. And, we are, I think, although COVID hasn't totally left us, especially for outdoor activities, people are starting to congregate a little bit more. So it seemed like a really good time to remind people about Riverside Park. I've spoken to people who said, I haven't been there in a few years.
Or a decade, or 20
Yeah,
years.
in some cases 20 years. And the people going there after 20 years would actually probably be quite surprised, because compared to 20 years ago, the views are much more open, and was stuff there that isn't there anymore, and there's new stuff there that wasn't there then.
Yeah, there's a great playscape, and it's visited by many, many children on many days of the week. I get to enjoy that with my 5-year-old granddaughter who loves the pink playscape. That's how she identifies Riverside Park. I want to go to the park with the pink playscape.
Yeah, it probably is the only pink playscape in Southeast Connecticut.
I'm not sure, but we have great love and affection for that playscape, and it's a wonderful memorial to the kids who were murdered in Newtown at Sandy Hook. So. There's a little bit of sadness about it, but it's mostly joy.
And when all those playscapes were built, it was a fantastic project. But the interesting thing about the one in Riverside Park is that most shoreline recreation areas are sandy and sunny. And Riverside Park is shoreline, but it's green and shady.
Yep. And apparently Emily was a shady kind of girl. So, kudos to everybody who was involved in siting it and building it and maintaining it. It's a great spot.
And I guess we should thank Public Works for cleaning it.
Yeah.
Because, especially on north sides of things in Connecticut, green stuff grows.
Unpleasant green stuff.
Yeah, not the green stuff So we have a picture of a map that we created that's in the kiosk that was installed. Maybe we can take a look at that. We created the map because the road network within Riverside Park is kind of confusing. I guess back in the 1920s and 30s, it was it was a campground, so some of the loopy roads were because people would pitch tents on their little campsites. When we were searching for old articles about Riverside Park, there was one article about city council setting a rate of, I don't know, 30 cents a night to camp there in the 1920s. But, you know, one of the challenges of the park in the past is that when people get there, it's like, how do you find anything? Because it's, I don't know, it's not all self-explanatory.
It's kind of windy and
It
hilly,
is.
very hilly.
Very hilly, and we have some pictures of that too. So, yeah, so the other thing we have problems with is that people say they can't find the park. So we do have a photo of where the park is. It's really, I don't think it's even a mile from the train station. Maybe it's barely a mile from the train station, but you know, the entrance is on Adelaide Street right off of Crystal Avenue, and you know, you can see it's just south of the Coast Guard Academy.
Yep. Right next door to the Coast Guard Academy, downhill from Mr. G's, around the corner from Winthrop School.
Yeah, uphill from Hodges Square, I guess.
Yeah, uphill from anything in Hodges Square. Yeah, there is kind of a dip there. Uphill and then downhill.
Well, you know, at one time, even when I was going to Riverside Park a lot, I couldn't really describe to anyone how to find it, because my, you know, method of finding it would be I go to Hodges Square, I take any road up and drive around, and eventually it would show up.
There you go. And there is a big sign at the entrance on Adelaide.
There is.
Adelaide and Crystal, that's where the entrance is, right across from the community garden and up from the river. So, and there's a beautiful view of the river from almost everywhere in the park. It's a really, really nice spot for a picnic or just a basketball. A lot of basketball is played at Riverside Park. On days when other parks have no one, Riverside Park will have many people playing basketball. Lots of pickup games.
One year we thought we were going to apply for a grant to refurbish the basketball court. And I went around to Toby May and Bartlett Park and Riverside, and it was January 1st. And no one was playing basketball at Toby May. No one was playing basketball at Bartlett. And I know those basketball courts are used, but on that particular day, there were like 8 people playing basketball at Riverside Park. And in terms of a setting for a basketball court, it's not the spiffiest new, you know, net and backboard, but in terms of being a not really pleasant place to hang out, it's great. It's
great. It really is. And it's greatly appreciated by dogs and their walkers. It's a really, really, I'm sure there's lots to smell if you have a dog who's into that. Not many aren't.
Yeah, you can count on dogs for something.
Yeah. But there are a lot of walkers that go into the park. People from the neighborhood where I live really, really enjoy walking in the park. And I like walking in the park, but I have a whole lot of trouble getting up the hill. I become breathless, so...
And we do have a few other pictures. Maybe we can go through sort of quickly. These are the green spaces in East New London. About 10 or 12 years ago, after the referendum, when it became clear that we were going to keep the park, some landscape architects looked at this and thought, well, it would be really nice to connect all these green spaces. And I'm kind of waiting with anticipation to find out what happens with the improvements to Fulton Park and the greenway maybe that's being created from the old mill to Winthrop Cove. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I don't know, but I think many people don't know that there's a brook there. It's Briggs Brook?
That's what Google Maps says, but I'm
not sure what the official name
sure.
is, but there's a brook that goes from the Old Town Mill past where the high-rises used to be and then toward the cove. So, and really a cool little brook, and it's beautiful to look at, but there's a fence on each side of it.
Yeah. At one time, I would like sneak in and do cleanups because things got so overgrown, like bittersweet and poison ivy if you weren't careful, and knotweed. So you really couldn't see much. Although at one point we saw a night heron, or I believe in a tree in that area. So there was wildlife, but it was really a mess. And you know, when I live near the hospital, I don't live in the Riverside area, but when I first started driving up there, I was like so shocked at how many fences there were. And it seemed that where those waterways were fenced off in Fulton Park and up to the mill, it made it kind of dangerous. We did a cleanup once in Fulton, and this woman came up to us and said, "Did anyone find a wallet?" No. She said, "Well, I was here last night and bad things happened." Like, people could get inside the fence, and then if there was any kind of trouble of any sort, there was no way to get help, or very difficult to help to get out, or difficult for help to get in. So I really hope that when all the clearing is done, and it's been pretty stunning to see the high-rise gone and be able to see the waterway, but I'd love to see like some fences removed.
I would too. I would like to see that vista opened, and I would like to see people in the neighborhood be able to use the brook. There's no reason that people couldn't throw a fishing line in there and, you know, have a meditative afternoon. It just seems like a kind of a waste of a resource to have it fenced in. But I am glad to see the clearing, and I am glad to see the high-rise demolished and the property leveled out. I am shocked by how small that property is, that they had so many people living in that. It's tiny.
Well, you know, the actual footprint of the buildings was tiny, but then there was like the whole grassy area down to the water that didn't have any building on it or much recreational. And so I don't remember how many acres it was, but yeah, it was 104 families, something like that, in those three buildings.
Yes.
So I spent many years there when I was working for Head Start, visiting families that lived there, but it was already in pretty poor shape at that time.
Well, I'm looking forward to whatever they decide to put there. It'll be an interesting transition time.
I keep thinking that at least on the area between the Brook and State Pier Road, it could kind of get landscaped to be a little bit like the Waterford Civic Triangle area next to the library that has water, not fenced off, some little bridges across it, and just places, benches.
It could be really pleasant. It could be a real asset to the area. Even though a lot of the area is industrial, a lot of the area is also residential. And it would be nice for the people who live in the apartments across State Pier Road to be able to go down to the brook.
Yeah, it's really pretty close. So yeah, State Pier Road, or those across from whatever the entrance road, Eugene O'Neill or whatever, who are on Federal Street or Eugene O'Neill, you walk over the overpass, you're pretty much there.
Yes. So I look forward to the city having some vision.
So far, I'm happy to see it happen, and the day the fences come down, I'll have a party. So we have a couple more maps of the park we can just go through kind of fast. You mentioned how you get out of breath going up the hill, and we have one map that shows the elevation, that there are some kind of level, like the basketball court is level, but there isn't really anything level around it. So you see the elevation goes from sea level to 150 feet in an 18-acre park. So it's a pretty steep area. And then you can see superimposed on this the funny roadway. This also is an old picture. They elevations haven't changed, but in the next picture, some of the things that were in the park have changed. But nonetheless, and you can see the tangle of roads, which I guess people should know that the city about 3 years ago changed the traffic pattern in the park.
Mm-hmm.
The main entrance is still the main entrance, but it's not the main exit anymore.
Right.
You can exit going out onto Stanner Street, going through the parking area, or loop around and hit Adelaide Street near Eastern Avenue down below.
Mm. Closer to the river.
Yeah. So some things have changed. The map that we showed in the beginning is in the kiosk near the parking area, and I think it has the current directional road markings right, but things could change in the future, who knows. But right now, the cross-hatched part is closed to all but emergency vehicles, and the rest of the roads, some are one-way, some are two-way.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, what did I want to talk about? We have some just pictures of the park for people who don't know much about it. So this is the entrance. And I don't know, can you see the gazebo? These are some things the Riverside Park Conservancy has actually put into the park. The benches, the gazebo, there's a kiosk, these plantings, which don't look nearly so nice in February as they did, maybe that was last May, but they'll be back. And this is, there's a parking area, and this is, you can see the pink playscape from there. And this is an area a lot of people haven't been to. Public Works sort of created an outdoor stage area that I don't think has been utilized at all. I don't know if we should talk about my pet peeve, which is Adelaide Street is kind of hard. It's open to the bottom, but it isn't really paved to the bottom. Mm-hmm. So there is a parking lot there. This area I think we should talk about.
Sure.
A little bit, the pavilion area. Traditionally, there was a pavilion here, and I remember one of the first times I was at the park being in the playground across from that.
Right.
I'm sure you visited that with your kids 30 years ago?
Oh, yeah, 35 years ago. They went to YMCA daycare at that park year after year after year. Wow. And that's where they would gather, at the playground across from the pavilion. And they would spend their days swimming in the river when you could still access the river from Riverside Park, and playing in the woods and just being wild. It was wonderful. All three of my kids love Riverside Park. They're Riverside Park addicts. So that's a nice thing, that they have a heart tie to that park. And they and their friends go and do cleanups, like casual cleanups, pick up broken glass and whatever stuff might be around. So that's a really nice thing.
So I see that the phone number is on here. We are live, and if anyone wants to call, share reminiscences of Riverside Park, ask questions about its future,
aspirations.
Yes. Yeah. The area, so it's a kind of a current picture that we showed of the pavilion. Mm-hmm. There had been an old pavilion. It had been somewhat deteriorated, and it was taken down, I don't know, maybe in around 2008.
I don't have a grip on that.
I know it was there in 2006. Mm-hmm. I know it wasn't there in 2010, so I'm
somewhere
kind of
in
splitting the difference. And there was no pavilion for quite a few years, and the city did replace the pavilion But the area across, it really was cleared, the old playground equipment, though we all thought it was fun. I mean, it was like the animals on the springs, and I think there was the thing,
The merry-go-round.
the merry-go-round the kinds of things.
And there were swings, and but it was the old galvanized metal kind of play equipment that's really out of fashion now, and so it was all taken out based on, now we put those rubber mats down, or we put wood chips, and that didn't have any of the amenities. So it was taken out, and I don't know what the plan was, if there ever was a plan to replace it, but I'd certainly like to see, and I know the Conservancy has some ideas about putting some new play equipment in that area.
Although we really love having the, Emily's Shady Spot Playscape, one of the problems is that if a family has a party and they're using the pavilion and they have younger kids, they can't see that playscape from that pavilion. You can from the amphitheater, uncovered picnic area, but if you want a pavilion, you can't. You can't see younger kids playing. Right. And so I guess it's been about a year and a half or two that the Conservancy has been talking about, like, what can we put near the pavilion that would be great? And so we got a couple of grants. And I have a slide about this, but I can hold this up too. We are doing a community survey. If people come to the Riverside Park Conservancy website, which is just riversideparkconservancy.org. Do not be like the confused New Yorkers who really want riversideparknyc.org. We get some of those. But right on top, there is a link to this survey. It can be, a person can print out or, do a fill-in PDF with a PDF document, or you can go to SurveyMonkey and submit all your answers online, because we don't want the same kind of playscape duplicated, 100 feet, 200 feet from the other one. But we kind of brainstorm different uses for children, for adult fitness, for nature viewing, swings, climbers, slides, musical instrument, easels, fitness stations, benches, picnic tables. So it's the community's opportunity to let us know, to help plan that area. And if you've ever reserved that pavilion, or if you think you might want to, or if you just want to go to the park and hang out, the restrooms, which are open, I think about April through October, when it's not a heated room, so the building, so the water is turned off for the winter. But if you decide you want to hang out there, and think about what kind of equipment might be really nice to have, to be very accessible to people in the pavilion, we'd love to have some community input. So I think what I want to do is, well, actually, I wrote on my notes, and I shouldn't forget this. We should talk a little bit about what Riverside Park Conservancy has been up to, like, this last 12 years.
Well, we've made some really positive changes. I mean, we weren't the catalyst for the pink playscape, but we were very involved in that. We installed a gazebo in the Pine Grove, so there's a gazebo with a bunch of picnic tables and grills. We've installed grills all over the park, getting grant money and then having Public Works put them in. We did advocate for the pavilion being rebuilt, and we advocate with Parks and Rec to encourage them to suggest, if the other parks are filled on a particular date to suggest Riverside Park to a family who wants to have an event. We're working on renovating the basketball court and helping the city. Friends of Riverside and the Conservancy planted thousands of daffodils a number of years ago, so they're beautiful in the spring when they bloom.
And you know, it's been such a mild winter. I've been clearing around the shrubs, and they're like this tall leaves poking out. And there probably are some crocuses in bloom in some obscure corners.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too early to go. Well, it's maybe just a little bit too early to go and see flowers.
But in a few weeks, the daffodils will be coming up and blooming, and several of us have made concerted efforts to adopt a spot and cut down knotweed, which, that's a challenge because you have to just keep cutting it and cutting it and cutting it until it gives up.
And you know this from first-hand experience.
I do. I adopted a corner of the park, and I was there once a week with my loppers, cutting the knotweed, and a lot of it finally did give up. I'll see this spring whether it's dead or coming back.
Yeah, the knotweed and the Japanese hops are the two things that they're very persistent invasives, and it's not easy to get rid of them, even though we've planted probably thousands of native plants, most of them purchased in small sizes, so it takes a little while to get them established, but some of the invasives are just really tough.
Yeah, they're quite vigorous, I have to say. And then we should talk about your corner, because you adopted a very large corner of the park, the entrance off of Stanners Street, and planted hundreds of native plants. And it really it's lovely. It's a lovely addition, and it makes it feel like you're in a place. This is the entrance. Welcome. It's lovely.
And we have been fortunate that we're an all-volunteer organization. We don't have big money, which is kind of nice when it comes to reporting to the IRS. It's like, yes, our revenues are less than $50,000 a year.
Yep.
And okay, do you still have the same officers? Did you go out of business? Nope. Hit the submit button.
Yep.
But we have gotten grants to purchase native plants. And of course, this is not really the most attractive time of year, because when you have native plants, they recommend you cut the stems down for a while, because some bugs like nesting in the base. So we're just now starting to cut down some of those plants. And in fact, when the city built their water feature near the entrance on Adelaide Street, they built this feature, but they had no plants, and we had gotten a grant to plant somewhere else that I don't remember where actually, but we diverted that money and planted around that circle. And it actually looks really nice once the tall winter growth is cut down and it comes back in spring.
Mm-hmm. So, and we did plant flowers on Crystal Avenue along the fence, and one of the first things the Riverside Park Conservancy ever did was to renovate the restroom. So there's a men's side and a women's side, and we painted the outside, put a new roof on it, painted the inside, put in new fixtures, put in a baby changing station, a dog watering station, bars for handicapped assistance, and we work with the city to make sure that the water gets turned on in the spring and off in the fall, and that the restrooms are available to people in the park.
And so people know, like Public Works actually did replace the original door locks, which were a key code, which we had put in, and they have electronic locks that when the water is on, that bathroom is kept open from, I think, something like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not open now because they don't want pipes to freeze. but one of these days, it will be time for us to get inside and see if it needs to be repainted. I have been in other park bathrooms in this city, and that one always is the best.
Oh, ours is the best. Excellent.
It is the best. It was a little bit of a controversy when we first got fixtures because we were asked to get stainless steel fixtures.
Prison fixtures.
Yeah, and some of the other park bathrooms do have stainless steel fixtures, and we were sort of adamant that it was going to be like a friendly place, and we weren't going to anticipate that there would be vandalism. And
so far, no. So far, so good.
So far, so good. There's been very little vandalism in the park itself. There is litter. Litter is a problem.
Well, and it blows in from the neighborhood, so it's not like.
And the transfer station.
It's not like there's no litter in other parks. It's, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
And my kids and their friends are doing their best to go in and pick up stuff once a week. So
yeah,
that's a good thing. And then you should talk about the rain gardens, because I am not that familiar.
Because Riverside Park is very sloped. Wherever there's a level spot, we're trying to be sensitive to not just having it run off into the Thames River. And so we, when we planted native plants along the slope where Stanners Street hits the parking lot near the basketball court in the Pine Grove, we actually scooped out some bowls where we have water-loving plants. This is in addition to, of course, the bioswale that the Public Works put in that we did planting around. And we have a new plan for a rain garden in that pavilion area. The area just south of the Coast Guard fence is a very rare kind of flat area. And if you go in the rain, you see that the stormwater does get on that road and there are cracks in it. So we have a couple of grants to kind of hollow that out a little, put a berm to keep the water off the road, and to plant water-loving plants in there. Stormwater is getting to be a big deal, especially for those of us who live near the coast. The quality and quantity of water in the Thames River are a big deal to us. So we're trying to make Riverside Park at very least neutral in terms of how much runoff, goes into the Thames. So that project, it got a little bit stalled. I think it'll probably be planted in spring. It was supposed to be planted in winter. Our landscaper had a lot of family issues and spent much of the winter in Hawaii with sick relatives.
Good and bad.
Yes. So, but we're hoping to get another grant to have monthly environmental programs with students. And they'll be related to the planting of the rain garden and planting of pollinators. So we're trying to, create amenities for the park, and we're also trying to improve the environment of the park because, a lot of the invasives, they survive by having a ton of windborne pollen. Well, what does that cause? Allergies, asthma. And at least when I worked for Head Start and had a lot of families who lived in the various low-income housing near the park, there were very high rates of asthma and allergies among the kids. And I've always wondered if it was because there were so many invasive plants and so much kind of foreign pollen in the air.
And proximity to the highway, that does not help.
Yeah, so there were a lot of issues, but environmental remediation does have to be a piece of it.
Well, every little thing that you can do is a help, right? I mean, you can say, oh, that's just a small thing, but one small thing plus one small thing plus one small thing can be a big thing.
Yeah, and there are other little, plans in little corners because it really is a park that has like different rooms that you can be in. It's
True. That's true.
yeah. So I just reached out to someone about an interpretive sign we want to put in the northeast corner for people sitting on the benches looking out at the Thames River, and that'll happen one of these days. I think we first started thinking about it 3 years ago, but maybe this year it'll actually get put up.
That would be great. But it's, again, we are doing what we can do with a small core group and some very helpful volunteers and some good grant opportunities. And we do one thing at a time.
And we're hoping to get more involvement, which is one of the reasons we're doing this show. We have a few just old historic photos of Riverside Park. We'll run through kind of fast. The park was first founded, the first piece of it, in the 1890s, and then more pieces were added to it. This was the area, actually near the wall that we want to get fixed this year. But there was a fountain. There is no longer a fountain. But if you look in the grass near that entrance, you can see the perimeter rocks embedded in the grass.
Oh.
So there's
we could put a fountain back.
Yeah, we could. So yeah, that was the entrance, and then this was a little bit up the hill, and but you can see it was a park that had a lot of people in it, and the shoreline was much. I don't know. Access to the shoreline remains a frustration, and not only is the beach eroding, but there is no legal way to enter. So I keep hoping for a good at-grade crossing at Adelaide, and this, the pitching of the tents, is sort of an illustration that people used to camp here, and there was a little pond that is no more, that I believe is where the amphitheater is now. And I think I mentioned, and, viewing spot for the regatta. So, which still happens, the regatta is not so visible anymore.
They don't row that far.
Yeah.
South. Anymore.
They used to kind of alternate going south to north and north to south, New London to Gales Ferry, and so only the varsity group travels far enough to get down to New London now that they always do south to north because all the boathouses are in Gales Ferry. So That's where people have their parties.
And it's still kind of a big deal in Gales Ferry area, the Yale-Harvard Regatta in June. It's an ancient tradition now.
And I think June 10th is the date. And we do have some activities planned. I guess we can, give people dates to just save the date, though they are all on the website as well. Neighbor Day, it's about a 12-year-old tradition in New London. Sunday, May 20th, we usually have pizza in the park. And we're actually inviting, if the weather is nice, painters, adult and child painters, because though we have art in the park in September, some of the artists who have come from out of town who love painting in the park have said, oh, can we paint it at a different season of the year than September? Even though September is a really magical time, I kind of get it, especially if they want to do flowers and different things are in bloom. So Neighbor Day is the 20th. The following week, the 3rd of June, we've collaborated for many years with Connecticut College, New London Trees, the Sustainability Committee, I'm not sure what other groups, to have a Trails Day walk. And they usually, but not always, are in the northern part of New London. And this year we're going to do it on Saturday, June 3rd, and we're going to walk around the Lyman Allen grounds where there are a lot of plans to restore the wetlands around the museum. So Maggie Redfern from the college and Susan Munger from New London Trees, we kind of have led a walk. We've done Bates Woods, we've done Fort Trumbull, we've done different parts of the Arboretum. So, and then we have park cleanups. And I was going to say the Regatta Day is kind of the rain date for painting. If May 20th has kind of bad weather, then we'll invite the artists to come on Regatta Day. Mm-hmm. And then the next slide is our park cleanups, subject to adjusting, but we have monthly cleanups, planting days, getting to different areas of the park. Now that people are starting to get out more, I'm hoping for bigger crowds than we've had in the past, because it's an 18-acre park.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot to clean up. It is.
But it makes a huge difference. And then our annual Down by the Riverside is Saturday, September 16th. We kind of did a scaled down one last year. We didn't have that many people, but it was a really nice day.
It was a nice day, and it was a nice crowd, and the music was really good. You can't complain.
No, you can't. And I think this year we are planning to restore some of the things that drew people before, like food. I mean, grilling hot dogs and having hot dogs and watermelon and like chips, just giving them out to whoever came, and a few other activities that kind of drew a crowd. Last fall we were sort of cautious and didn't really want a huge crowd because we. The event was right after school started, and we thought, we don't want to be a super spreader event.
Right. We didn't want to test fate, but I think this fall things will be better. I'm hopeful that things will be better, and if they're not, we can have a scaled down event.
Right. The details have not been all worked out, but one thing that was really successful, I thought, was having art supplies for kids so they could go anywhere they wanted throughout the park, and they'd have a clipboard and paper, and they could choose their medium. We had markers, we had crayons, we had pastels, we had watercolors, and they could kind of figure out what they wanted to draw.
Because plein air painting is not just for professionals. Anybody can do it.
Sure can. So last year we did have a few artists come and participate, and most years we have followed up in October with an art exhibit of the painting, and it's been all kinds of places. The first couple of years it was in Union Station,
which was great.
Back when Todd O'Donnell and Barbara Timken owned the station. And they let us hang things on their walls. And that was really my favorite place.
Yes, because a lot of people go through day and night, and so you have a big audience for the paintings, and some of them actually got sold.
Yeah, a lot got sold. The first couple years, quite a few got sold, including, we kept the information in the train station, and I would get some emails saying, is this for sale? People who were just taking the train who saw a painting they liked and wanted to buy it. So we, it was great, but we also displayed at the Guard, we displayed at the Main Street office, we at the Firehouse Gallery. But last year, we kind of decided to move the display general area from downtown to Hodges Square.
Which was really nice.
And it was Enrico Chow. I would definitely do that again. I remember the old Don Juans that had Juan Madry's paintings all over the wall, and I loved seeing paintings all over the wall in that building again. But that said, in addition to being part of Riverside Park Conservancy, you're part of the Hodges Square Village Association.
Sure.
And what's the Hodges Square Village Association up to these days? Because I know it's active.
Well, yeah, we're just trying to promote the neighborhood and be cheerleaders for that area of the city. It's frequently forgotten. It's frequently... people think that it's part of Waterford. People think it's part of Quaker Hill because it's on the other side of the bridges, the highway bridges, and it's kind of disconnected from the rest of New London. So I like it because it's kind of secret. It's so handy and convenient. We have really nice restaurants in the area. There's a breakfast place. Mr. G's is there. Long time restaurant. Sliced pizza. Rico Chow, we have a liquor store, we have convenience stores, we have 3 gas stations in one block. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but bless them, they're doing business. There's an Oriental food market, Lee's Oriental, and they've been in business for a really long time. And you can get stuff there that you really can't just get at the grocery store. It's very specialized, culturally significant food and ingredients. And we just had a CBD shop open, or a vape shop. Yeah, I guess they do both.
Was that between Rico Chow and Bike New London, or is that
no, it's on the other side of the street. So it's like next to the nail salon, which is reopened and doing business. So there's kind of anything you would need within walking distance of most of the homes. It's a really stable neighborhood, lots of home ownership. I did the census in 2010 and 2020, and I found some of the same people in 2020. So, it's really nice to know that people like it and stay there. Houses that go for sale usually sell very quickly. And we, a couple of years ago, talked to Eversource. Eversource has a substation in the neighborhood on William Street. And it had become really, really overgrown, and people were starting to dump in it. And we communicated with Eversource, with their community outreach people, and they have been keeping it really beautiful. They cut down all the overgrown brush. They cut down some of the trees, and they've been maintaining it. Some of it appears to be wetlands, but it's really, really attractive now to walk by instead of just an overgrown dump mess. So that was a big thing for the neighborhood association to do, was to make sure that it remains walkable, safe, comfortable. That's really our issue. The members of Hodges Square Village Association go out and look at how's it going, how are the sidewalks, who's moving in, who's moving out. We try to be good neighbors to each other, and we really want to, next step, do some traffic calming measures on William Street, because people coming from the college and the north end, it's downhill. And before you know it, you're going 40 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour limit. And people are trying to cross the street, and there are no stop signs, there are no stoplights. So it's dangerous. And I'd really like to see some way of letting people know. And I don't necessarily need a stoplight or a stop sign, but I think that we could do some modifications to the street to let people know, wait, you're not on a highway, you're in someone's neighborhood, there are businesses where people need to cross the street, and but it's a thing, because you're working with the DOT, because that's a state route, and you're working with the city, and you're working with the neighbors, but we'll see. I'm positive that we're going to be able to do something significant to slow the traffic down.
And interestingly, Bike New London is there, but on Bailey Circle is the access to the bridge.
Yeah, the pedestrian and bike bridge is accessed right there in that neighborhood. So we do have a lot of walkers and bikers, mostly bikers, coming through. There's much better signage now. That was something that we advocated for, along with Bike New London and Bike Groton, to make the signs visible and noticeable that, don't keep going, turn here. And another thing that I'd like to do, God willing, we'll get more volunteers, is to keep the entrance to the bike path over the highway bridge nicer. It gets very overgrown, and the Department of Transportation really does not maintain it. So it's going to be up to the neighbors.
If people want to get involved with the Hodges Square group, how can they find you?
We have an email. It's Hodges Square, both S's, VA. So HodgesSquareVA@outlook.com.
Okay.
The website that we have is very outdated, and I won't go into the kerfuffle, but we're not able to change it. But
we'll have to work on that.
But yeah, if you call Bike New London, they'll be able to get you in touch with us as well, and they have a website as well.
That sounds great. Well, we have like 2 minutes left, so I just want to do a quick mention of the Riverside Community Garden, which is at the corner of Crystal Avenue and Adelaide Street, and we are open for registration on March 1st. You can actually, there's one more slide that has contact info. There is a website, riversidecommunitygarden.org, that has contact info, and the same with riversideparkconservancy.org. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can do so. And we're always looking for more gardeners. Gosh, I think we actually got through everything.
Yeah. Well, the garden's awesome too. I mean, there's people. You can spend a lovely afternoon chatting with people who are also gardeners. We have raspberry bushes and pear trees, and the pears made really, really excellent pear chutney, and the raspberries were just delicious.
And there's a shed. We share tools. It's very low cost, and it really is a nice place to spend some time.
And we have a sharing garden outside the fence. It is a fenced-in garden, which doesn't keep the chipmunks out, but it keeps most horrible people out. And I mean, it's fun. Gardening is fun and delicious.
And gardening in a group is fun too.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Diane.
It was a pleasure.
And I don't know, next week, I have a show scheduled for next week, a live show with Wawashaka. Some of you know him as Mark Roberts. He is doing some program empowering women. He's on the schedule. I don't know anything more about this show, so tune in, and you and I will learn together. And Diane, I will see you at the park.
All right.
When the rain don't